Ohio gets a shot in the arm. Lawmakers sprint to the finish, and the feds take charge of the Goodson investigation. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Mike Gonidakis, Republican strategist, Derek Clay, Democratic strategist, Jeremy Pelzer, State House reporter for Cleveland.com, and Jesse Balmert, State House reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer. After nearly 6 weeks of a steady and sharp rise of COVID cases, there were signs of hope this week.
Ready? Our recipients, are you ready? First 6 recipients.
Woo.
All right, 3, 2, 1, vaccinate.
Ohioans started getting the vaccine, first healthcare workers, then nursing home residents. But it will be some time before most of us can get the vaccine. Meanwhile, the virus continues to spread at a very high rate. Nearly all of the state is red under the state's warning system. But the sharp increase seems to have leveled off. And while he says the numbers are still not good, Governor Mike DeWine says the Thanksgiving-related bump is not as bad as they feared.
We think that there probably was a bump, but we also think that the health orders, the fact that we are now enforcing the mask and that the mask compliance is way up across the state. And we think that coupled with the whole issue in regard to the curfew, putting a curfew on, we think those two things together have slowed this down.
Jesse Balmert, looking at that map, it's hard to find good news, but it does seem like we have flattened the curve, albeit at a high rate, at least for this week.
Yeah, part of the challenge with the map, it was an early warning system of what could be coming as far as increased rate of cases or hospitalizations or deaths or some the various factors that are on this map. And so right now what we're seeing is we're here, like the virus has spread in large parts of the state. But as you said at the beginning, there are some signs for hope. There's some things that are slowing down. And of course, those vaccines that are coming to Ohio are certainly an encouraging sign. And the fact that they got here perhaps sooner than other people might have expected is certainly encouraging.
Jeremy Pelzer, the Thanksgiving bump that we all feared because we figured people would be traveling. So a lot of people did travel, but less than normal. So do you think it was we cried wolf, or do you think that people heard those cries of wolf and stayed home during Thanksgiving? What does the governor, what does his administration think happened there?
I think the governor and his administration think that people, took some of the precautions that he has been saying for months that they should take. And he is, he's not saying I told you so, but he's also saying he's kind of using the carrot more than the stick and saying attaboy.
Derek Clay, how would you assess how the last few weeks have going? The governor can't win. He gets criticisms on one side for not opening up the state enough and for the 10 p.m. curfew. And others are saying he's not doing enough to close things down. Where are you right now on this as we head into the Christmas holiday?
I think the governor is doing everything that he possibly can do to keep Ohioans safe. The bottom line is, when you have a leader that listens to the scientists, when you have a leader that encourages mask wearing and social distancing and washing hands, then you can do things that will flatten the curve. When we looked at the pandemic in the early parts of this year, when there were shutdowns in place, then you saw a more flattened curve because people weren't out shopping. They weren't out going to dinner and doing the things that we normally do throughout our day. But the best that we can do at this point is make sure that Ohioans are doing what they need to do to keep each other safe. And that means wearing masks, social distancing, and washing hands.
Mike Gonidakis, I know my barber, even though there's no shutdown and barbers were shut down in the spring, he's reopened and taken a lot of precautions. But because of the stay-at-home advisories, because of the strong words from the governor's office and the high spread, that his business is off 25-30% just in the past few months because of what's going on here. So the virus is still very much with us and it's still impacting the economy.
It is. It's negatively impacting the economy. It's going to get a lot worse, Mike. I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but the fact of the matter is, come January, regardless who the next president is going to be, and President-elect Joe Biden, of course, but we're in for some really tough times. The airline industry, business travel, and the whole. Even our governor has said that the next budget is pretty gloomy. But with that being said, we need to thank President Trump for Operation Warp Speed. Even the so-called experts said we were never going to get the vaccine before the end of the year. Luckily, we're blessed to have it in Ohio. Now, we're going to be short next week. We heard this on Friday that the number of vaccines we thought were coming next week are going to be about 43% less, according to I think it was the Dispatch and the Enquirer reported that. And so we just need to be patient. Let's get the nursing home people, let's get the frontline workers taken care of, and then the rest of us can wait.
Jesse Balmer, is this just a glitch in the early days of trying to vaccinate millions of people that they miscounted or underestimated, overestimated the amount of vaccine we were going to get from Pfizer? Of course, Moderna, their vaccine's coming along soon, we think.
Yeah, I think that's one factor. I think also the governor was saying even from the beginning that these are the numbers that we imagine we're going to get, that we are projected to get, but it was always a little iffy about how many we were actually going to get. They're trying to distribute to states across the nation. They're trying to prioritize certain areas and the hospitals and nursing homes first. And so I don't think I would read too much into it, but if things are consistently slow, obviously we'll start asking some more questions.
Jeremy, this is the easy part. Frontline healthcare workers, nursing home residents have been hit really hard by this. The next phase of who gets the vaccine in what order is a little more difficult. Any idea how the state is going to handle that?
DeWine said he's still working on it. It's a work in progress. He was specifically asked the other day about whether prison inmates would be next in line after those, what they call the 1A phase workers. And you said, send me a letter. Let me know what you think, because we're still trying to figure this out. So it's a work in progress for him and his administration.
Yeah, prisons have been hit hard, and it affects not only the inmates, but the workers as well. But that's going to be a hard sell to have prison inmates. Politically, it's going to be a hard sell to have prison inmates go ahead of other folks. But that's the situation that he and every governor in the country is going to be faced with. Anyway, the 133rd Ohio General Assembly has gone into overtime of sorts. Lawmakers wanted to finish up the lame duck session this week, but it will extend to next week. Among the bills passed in the final sprint, a ban on executions of the mentally ill. Lawmakers overturned Governor DeWine's health order, which basically closed county fairs because of COVID. DeWine may veto that one. Lawmakers voted to prohibit the use of telemedicine for medication-induced abortions. Some big bills remain on the table. A proposed one-year delay in the implementation of the scandal-tarnished nuclear bailout law, and the possible override of the governor's veto of the bill cutting his ability to impose quarantines during health emergency. Jeremy Pelzer, let's start with the nuclear bailout law. Where do we stand on the repeal and or replace and or delay and or let's hope this goes away strategy for this bill? We'll go to Jesse while he unmutes himself. There's a 2020 moment right there. Jesse Balmer.
Yeah, so there is still a lot up in the air. The most likely scenario right now is what they're calling this kind of delay. It's not a complete one-year delay because they don't have the votes for the fees to be stopped right away in January. So the fees would take effect, that would go to these nuclear plants for about 3 months, and then Ohioans would be refunded. So if that sounds like a mess, it's because it kind of is. And that is but they also had challenges getting enough people to support that this week. And so there are a lot of different scenarios on the table. I think a full repeal is certainly the least likely scenario. Individuals have put it forward several times and it's just been rejected.
Let's try Jeremy Pelzer again. Jeremy, you with us? Let me see if we can hear you. Can we hear Jeremy? Jeremy, go ahead and talk. Stand your ground was the other thing. That late Friday, the Senate passed the Stand Your Ground bill, which removes the ability for the duty for folks to retreat in any situation. Of course, that loosens gun restrictions when lawmakers were hoping that they would tighten, or the governor was hoping they would tighten gun restrictions and gun regulations. Jeremy? Oh, This is a 2020 moment. We are having trouble with Jeremy, so we will move on to Mike Gonidakis. Mike Gonidakis, any surprises from you or from your perspective on this lame duck session?
No surprises, the guaranteed life, death taxes, and then during lame duck, abortion and guns are those issues are always on the table, and they're on the table now. I think the most fascinating thing will be what the governor, as you said, Mike, does with the stand your ground / duty to retreat bill, especially with the backdrop of the legislature deciding not to move his red flag legislation, of course. But at the end of the day, the things that aren't talked about, there's a lot of bills that were passed with unanimous or near unanimous agreement, bipartisan agreement. So the legislature was busy, and they do this every 2 years and late nights, and we're going to be in overtime, as you said. But I think for the most part, they did a really good job as GA.
Derek Clay, do you think the governor should veto that? Should veto the stand your ground bill? Do you think he will? Do you think of Governor DeWine, who's on the ballot in 2 years, can he veto a gun bill? Derek Clay.
Well, if he does veto the bill, it goes against everything that his party stands for. So I'm not sure if he will veto it. Now, what makes it tricky for the governor is that he has his own gun legislation that he wants the legislature to pass as a result of the tragic shooting in Dayton that happened a year ago. So, I don't think that the governor will veto it, but I do know that he is not real fond of this stand your ground bill.
This session has been extraordinary. We've, of course, had the pandemic, and we saw the leader of the House indicted in that bribery and racketeering scheme. And Republican members seem to be battling more with their Republican governor than with Democrats. Jesse Balmert, how will you remember this session? What's your takeaway? This has been an extraordinary year.
Honestly, when you were recapping it, it's like you almost forget half of the things that happened. We started with a different speaker. We actually started with a speaker battle, and then we had a different speaker. We had a federal indictment. There's been a lot of kind of intra-party fighting with the Republicans, which makes sense because they control both the House, the Senate, and the governorship. You're just seeing a lot of disagreements on what is the right course forward for the novel coronavirus and what's the right balance between keeping businesses open and perhaps protecting Ohioans' lives. And certainly, their livelihoods are part of their lives. So you're seeing that debate play out in the Republican Party, and it's been a kind of vigorous one.
Mike Gonidakis, do you see I don't know if we're going to call it a rift. I mean, some are calling for his impeachment, which is, ridiculous. But do you see that the rift being closed between far-right conservatives in the legislature and Governor DeWine as the next session begins and as, they all seek for re-election, certainly the House and the governor?
Yes and no, Mike. We're a diverse party. We're going to have 61, 63 seats in the House of Representatives as Republicans next go around. The voters put us in the office to legislate. But the thing is, Mike, is that with that diversity comes difference of opinions. You've got a lot of people in Western Ohio, rural, God's country, German Catholics up and down I-75. They have a different opinion sometimes than the current governor does in his administration that, for the most part, live here in Franklin County in the Bexley and Upper Arlington area. So you've got this diverse world viewpoint and life viewpoint that as a party, we need to come together and continue to do with it. This budget is going to be a nightmare that we have to have, according to our Constitution, done by July 1st. 2021. So I think this is just tip of the iceberg stuff, but I think we'll come together as a party and do the right thing.
Derek Clay, map making is on the agenda for the next year after the census comes in and we find out, where state lawmakers and state House members, state senators, they'll be drawing those districts again. There are incentives to do it properly. There are penalties if we still stick with the gerrymandering. How optimistic that the maps will be a lot different when the legislature takes office 2 years from now?
Well, Mike, I'm glad you brought up gerrymandering because that's the reason why the Republicans have such an advantage in the legislature now is because of gerrymandering. When you look at the lines that are drawn, the congressional lines, you got Marcy Kaptur who reaches all the way from Toledo all the way over to Cleveland. There was all types of lines that were drawn to create new congressional opportunities right here in Central Ohio. So yes, I do think that the legislature will have to take this up in the new General Assembly about, what the public process is going to be with redistricting. But until we get the gerrymandering out of this process, then it's always going to be a lopsided advantage for the Republicans.
All right, our next topic, we got some clarification this week as to who is in charge of the investigation into the fatal police shooting of Casey Goodson Jr. The 23-year-old black man was shot by a sheriff's deputy, Jason Mead, who is white, on December 4th. Goodson's family says he was shot in the back, and as he entered his home, the deputy's attorney says Goodson pointed a gun at his client. This week, in an appearance on WOSU Radio's All Sides with Ann Fisher, U.S. Attorney David DeVillers laid out who was involved in the investigation and who is in charge.
And I want to be clear, there is only one investigation. There's only one investigating team, and it's going out of our office. It involves CPD, the FBI, Rankin County Prosecutor's Office, our U.S. Attorney, AUSA's, Civil Rights Division, and there's also an individual from the Inspector General of the United States that's involved at this time. So that's the team.
There are a lot of investigatory units involved, but your team is calling the shots, David DeVillers. Is that one way to put it?
That is the way to put it, yes.
Okay.
DeVillers and incoming Franklin County Prosecutor Gary Tyack say they have not agreed to any potential outcome. Derek Clay, David DeVillers was pretty clear there. He's the lead dog in this investigation, he says, but I didn't get the same feeling from incoming Prosecutor Tyack in his statement. He says that we're not jumping to any conclusions yet. What's going on here, do you think?
Yeah. Mr. DeVillers made it very clear that his office is going to run this investigation, and the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, the CPD, BCI, and a number of other institutions will be a part of that process. It is a little tricky because this is happening during a transition from the current prosecutor, Ron O'Brien, to the new prosecutor, Gary Tyack. So I think that, Gary Tyack's office wants to be, wants to understand all of the factors in the case before they get involved.
So, Derek, do you think that DeVillers is jumping the gun here? Do you think, it's Columbus Police right now who are investigating it. They asked the U.S. Attorney to come in after they asked the Attorney General, the State Attorney General, to come in, and he declined. So do you think DeVillers is being premature, or is this what the Columbus Police Department wants?
I don't think that he is jumping the gun at all. It's tricky because, it's a Franklin County Sheriff's deputy that's involved. The Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, it would be somewhat of a conflict if they got involved. They have to be a part of the process, but DeVillers' office can come in, look at it from a fresh set of eyes, and be able to quarterback this thing in a way that I think hopefully will be fair for the family.
Mike Onadakis, incoming prosecutor Tyack, has said that he would like, at this point, his office to handle the prosecution. There was some talk that it should be farmed out to a special prosecutor on the county level. What do you think should happen there? Should this investigation go to somebody completely separate? Maybe it's the U.S. Attorney. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, maybe that is, Mike. And no disrespect to incoming prosecutor Tyack, but there is a conflict of interest, as Derek said, because the attorney of record for the Franklin County Sheriff's Department is the county prosecutor. So we have to be careful. That's why soon-to-be former prosecutor Ron O'Brien would always bring in outside help, special counsel, special prosecutors, what have you, to make sure that we weren't even getting close to impropriety or ethical lines there. So I think we've got a good team, and I believe in Mr. DeVillers and the FBI that we're going to get to the bottom of this, because we have to as a community. The facts in this are alarming. I have children. Everyone here is family members. We can't have this happening anywhere, let alone Columbus, Ohio.
Derek Clay, this week the county commissioners sort of cleared the way for body cameras on sheriff's deputies. They were talking about it, for years, I guess. And then last July, after the protests downtown, it became more urgent, but not urgent enough for this case. And that has to be good news for folks that, because a body camera may well solve this case, perhaps.
Absolutely, it's not going to do much for the case that's pending now, but Franklin County Sheriff's deputies should have had body cameras a long time ago. And so I'm happy that funding is moving forward.
Okay, our final topic. It has been more than 2 years Since Ohio carried out an execution, there are 138 people on Ohio's death row right now. But whether the state will carry out their sentences is in doubt. Governor DeWine has told lawmakers Ohio cannot carry out executions by lethal injection, and he says the legislature has to approve another method. And when a Gannett reporter characterized DeWine as a supporter of the death penalty, the governor said, quote, "I did not say that. I'm following the law," unquote. But in the 1980s, DeWine and other lawmakers voted to restore the death penalty here in Ohio. Mike Gonidakis, has the governor had a serious change of heart?
Change of heart or evolved, it appears as if he has. He firmly believes that the death penalty does not deter crime. It's happening. And as a devout Catholic and Christian and pro-life governor, I think he has an internal struggle going on right now. He is going to follow the law because that's his constitutional duty, but he did the right thing by putting the moratorium. Now, the only other options, if we're not going to do lethal injection, is the electric chair, gas chamber, or firing squad, and we don't want any of that. So I don't see any burning desire in the legislature to come up with a new method. I don't see the governor trying to find something else. So I think we're going to have, I think the July 2018 was the last execution in Ohio. And I can't foresee one happening in the near future, let alone 2021, 2022. So where we go with this, I don't know. It might just remain status quo.
Jesse Balmer, what's the situation, the feeling among lawmakers? I'm guessing there are some down there that would like to solve this and bring back the death penalty. Prosecutors like to have the death penalty on the table as a way to achieve justice in some cases, they say, and also to force plea bargains from folks. Lawmakers, are they considering other methods, Jesse?
Honestly, I think the kind of evolution that Mike spoke to about the governor is occurring in some lawmakers as well. I think you're seeing more of a shift towards concerns either about the cost or concerns about just how feasible it is, or, the concerns about, unequal treatment of the people who are on death row, potentially. And so there hasn't been a large push to solve this. Some people who have proposed, there was kind of a weird bonkers idea earlier where a lawmaker wanted to use seized fentanyl, and that was shot down pretty quickly. So I think most people are fine with this kind of de facto moratorium. The legislature, as you pointed out in the beginning, just passed legislation that would prevent the death penalty for those with serious mental illnesses. And that's a piece of legislation that's been stalled for years. So you're seeing a little movement on things like this.
Derek Clay, you're a veteran of political campaigns. Back in the 80s and 90s, the easiest way to say you were tough on crime was to be a full-fledged supporter of the death penalty. And it was also the easiest way to criticize your opponent for being soft on crime if they opposed the death penalty. This is quite an evolution in this issue, correct? Derek?
I agree. It is an evolution. I think that the death penalty does tug on the heartstring of the governor, and it's a tough thing to manage and control. So, I think the moratorium is the best way to go.
Mike Gonidakis, is this issue tough on crime, soft on crime? Is the death penalty now irrelevant to that argument?
No, and I don't think maybe for some specific offices, but not others. Attorney General, I think you want to be tough on crime. But, we got just one cautionary tale. I think if we did a poll in the state of Ohio, I still believe a majority of Ohioans would still support the death penalty than not support it. Maybe not Franklin County where we all live. We're more moderate to left-leaning county. But there's 87 other counties that have that could have a different opinion. But the last poll I did see, there's still a majority. It was low 50s, but still a majority supported it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's 52% support the capital punishment. All right, it's time now for our weekly off-the-record parting shots. And Mike Gonidakis, we'll start with you.
Much softer tone. Hopes for a pandemic baby boom, Mike, has went bust. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, a Brookings Institute report said we're going to have 300,000 less births than we did the previous year. So I don't know what all that means, but there won't be a pandemic baby boom.
Interesting. I don't know where to go from that. Derek Clay.
Ohio just got a little richer politically. Joyce Beatty is now the new president of the Congressional Black Caucus, which is a very powerful caucus on Capitol Hill. And Congresswoman Marcia Fudge is the new HUD secretary coming into the Biden administration. So we got rich politically in Ohio.
You know, it sets up a congressional race up north. And Jesse Balmert, your final thought.
'Tis the season for farewells to state lawmakers, and one that I thought was interesting was a farewell to Senator Dave Burke, which included playing the song Firework by Katy Perry as he tries to legalize fireworks in Ohio.
So where does that bill stand? Because it's one of those bills, Jesse, they're going to be legal around the 4th of July. The other one was legal all the time. Where does that stand? For planning purposes only, of course.
Right now, there's a proposal that would allow municipalities to okay fireworks on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th. We're still seeing if that gets all the way to DeWine.
Wow, home rule. How about that? My off-the-record comment, it has been a heck of a year, and I want to thank the WOSU News team for providing excellent coverage. I want to thank our TV crew, Greg Colson, Darren McDonald, Chuck Oney, Paul Peliquin, and John Prosick. They had to overcome a lot of technical hurdles to get this show on the air each week. You saw them tonight. So we thank you for that. Also to our panelists who became TV engineers in their own right this year. And most of all to you for watching, tolerating the fuzzy video. You cannot hear some panelists and the occasional Zoom buffering. We appreciate you sticking with us, and we hope to get back in the studio soon. Have the happiest of holidays. Stay safe. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, wosu.org/COTR. I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.